In simple words, a flamethrower tank is a standard armored vehicle that has been modified to carry and fire a flame. These vehicles were primarily used in World War II and later conflicts to overcome heavily fortified enemy positions like bunkers, pillboxes, and caves, by replacing the main gun or a machine gun with a flamethrower. These tanks could project a stream of burning fuel, either thickened gasoline or other flammable liquids. This made them exceptionally effective for close-quarters assault, as the fire could penetrate openings and clear out enemy forces without direct line of sight. Here are the 13 most notable flamethrowers in the past. Number 1. The M3A1 Satan. The M3A1 Satan was an improvised flamethrower tank developed by the U.S. Marine Corps in 1944 for the Pacific theater of World War II. Built on the chassis of the M3A1 Stuart light tank, its main 37mm gun was replaced by a flamethrower to effectively clear out Japanese bunkers and fortifications. Around 24 of these tanks were converted, seeing action in the Marianas, including the Battle of Saipan and Tinian. Though they proved effective in their specialized role, the M3A1 Satan suffered from a limited range and restricted turret traverse, leading to the development of more advanced flamethrower tanks. Number 2. The L640LF. An Italian flamethrower variant of the L640 light tank used during World War II. The standard L640 was a small two-main light tank, and the LF model replaced its main 20mm cannon with a flamethrower. It carried approximately 200 liters of flammable liquid. The L6LF was designed for close-quarters infantry support, especially for clearing fortifications and entrenched positions. It saw service on various fronts, including North Africa and Eastern Front. While its flamethrower was effective in its specialized role, the L640's light armor and limited operational range made it highly vulnerable to enemy fire. Number 3. The Churchill Crocodile. A terrifying British flamethrower tank developed for the D-Day landings. It was a variant of the heavily armored Churchill 7 infantry tank designed to clear enemy fortifications and bunkers. Its flamethrower was mounted in place of the hull machine gun and was fed by a large armored fuel trailer towed behind the tank. This unique design allowed for a massive fuel capacity, building enough for 81-second burst with a range of up to 120 yards. The Crocodile proved highly effective, both physically and as a powerful psychological weapon that often caused enemy troops to surrender. It saw service throughout the Normandy campaign and beyond, even assisting U.S. forces. Number 4. The Flammpanzer II. A deadly German flamethrower tank developed for use against fortifications. Also known as the Flamingo, it was based on the Panzer II light tank chassis, with its main gun replaced by a smaller turret housing a machine gun. 2 flamethrowers were mounted in small, armored turrets on the front fenders. It saw service during the early stages of Operations Barbarossa on the Eastern Front. However, its thin armor made it highly vulnerable to enemy fire, and its performance was considered unsatisfactory. Consequently, the surviving vehicles were withdrawn and converted into Marder II tank destroyers. Number 5. The M132 Armored Flamethrower. Built on the M113 Armored Personnel Carrier chassis, it was designed for infantry support and clearing fortifications in the jungles of Vietnam. The M132 replaced the standard machine gun with an M10-8 flamethrower and a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun. The main body of the vehicle was converted to hold a 200-gallon napalm-based fuel tank and a pressurized system, giving it a range of 200 meters. Nicknamed the Zippo, it was a highly effective and feared psychological weapon. Number 6. The L335LF. An Italian flamethrower tank based on the L335 chassis. The LF designation stood for Lancia Flame, meaning flamethrower. Replacing one of its machine guns, the L3LF was armed with a flamethrower and typically towed an armored trailer containing 500 liters of flammable liquid, although some later versions carried a smaller, onboard fuel tank. This gave it a maximum range of up to 22 meters. Used for close infantry support and clearing fortifications, its thin armor and limited armament made it extremely vulnerable on the battlefield. It saw action in Ethiopia, the Spanish Civil War, and across various fronts in World War II. Number 7. The Flammpanzer III. Based on the Panzer III medium tank chassis, the main gun was replaced with a flamethrower system that had a range of up to 60 meters. It carried a large internal fuel supply of over 1,000 liters, allowing for a sustained burst of flame. The vehicle was designed for infantry support and for clearing fortifications and entrenched positions. Around 100 were converted from existing Panzer III OSP-M tanks. Despite its effectiveness as a psychological weapon, its limited range and vulnerability of flamethrower tanks in general led to their limited production and use on the Eastern and Italian fronts. Another German flamethrower assault gun developed in 1943. Built on the highly successful Stock 3 chassis, it was designed to provide close infantry support and destroy fortified positions. Its main gun was replaced with a flamethrower system capable of projecting a stream of flame of up to 60 meters. Only 10 of these vehicles were converted, and their combat use is uncertain. They were ultimately sent back for reconversion to standard Stock 3 assault guns, as the Flammpanzer III proved to be the more practical and effective flamethrower vehicle. Number 9. The KV-8. The KV-8 was a Soviet heavy flamethrower tank developed during World War II, based on the chassis of the formidable KV-1 to make space for the AT-041 flamethrower. The tank's main 76.2mm gun was replaced with a smaller 45mm cannon, which was cleverly disguised to look like the original to avoid drawing targeted fire. The KV-8 was designed for infantry support, primarily to assault heavily fortified positions and bunkers. Despite its effectiveness in its role, its production was limited, and its smaller main gun meant it had less anti-tank capability than the standard KV-1. Number 10. The OT-26. Another Soviet flamethrower tank developed in the 1930s, based on the T-26 light tank chassis. It was the first of a series of chemical tanks so called because they could also be used to dispense smoke or other toxic substances. The OT-26 replaced the main gun in one of the twin turrets with a flamethrower. While its flamethrower was effective for clearing enemy fortifications, its short range and thin armor made it vulnerable to anti-tank fire. The OT-26 saw combat in the Spanish Civil War and the Winter War, and in the early stages of World War II. Number 11. The OT-130. It was an improved variant of the earlier OT-26, with the main gun replaced by a more powerful flamethrower. The vehicle was designed for close-quarters infantry support, particularly for assaulting bunkers and pillboxes. It carried 360 liters of flammable liquid, allowing for multiple bursts of flame with a range of up to 100 meters using a special compressor. Despite its effectiveness as a psychological weapon, the OT-30's light armor and limited main armament made it very vulnerable on the battlefield. It saw extensive use in the Winter War and the early stages of World War II. Number 12. The M4A3R3 Zippo. A famous flamethrower variant of the M4 Sherman tank developed by the U.S. Marine Corps for the Pacific Campaign in World War II. Nicknamed Zippo after the famous lighter, it was designed to clear out Japanese fortifications and bunkers. The vehicle's main gun was replaced with an M67 flamethrower. The Zippo saw extensive use in the battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa, where it proved highly effective in its role of close-quarters infantry support against heavily entrenched enemy positions. Number 13. The LVT-4. This unique amphibious flamethrower vehicle was based on the LVT-4 Water Buffalo amphibious tractor. It was not a standard variant but rather a field modification. These vehicles, sometimes referred to as Sea Serpents, were equipped with a flamethrower to provide close-in fire support for infantry during amphibious assaults and inland operations. Their ability to cross both land and water made them invaluable for clearing Japanese bunkers and fortifications on Pacific islands. However, the light armor made them vulnerable to enemy fire, and their open-topped design exposed the crew. Well, that's it guys for today. We'll see you guys again in our next video. Until then, bye-bye.